Hi, everyone. I'm Whitney Ingram. I'm a digital marketing specialist here at Q, and I'm here with Claudia Gonzalez. I had to write it all down because you have so much to your name, but she started in 2022 with her husband, Anthony. She's on the Equity Council. She's a Ruby ambassador, and she was the 2023 CO pick.
That's me. Thank you, Whitney. I'm excited to be here with you guys today.
So what does a typical conversation look like with a leader that you're hoping to attract to your team at Q?
I think a conversation with a leader really starts with getting to listen to their story. A lot of times we get caught up talking, right, and saying so much about ourselves that we tend to forget to listen. So whenever a leader reaches out to me or have, a conversation started, it just goes back to just tell me a little bit about yourself. What season are you in business? What do you see in Q Sciences that could make, an impact, not just for yourself, but honestly, when you classify yourself as a leader, you also carry the weight of impact and influence. So, what about your people? What can we do for your people? I think that's very important in those conversations.
So really just trying to get to know the person.
Absolutely. Getting to know them, what's their why? Why do they do this? Everybody has a why that gets us up from bed every single morning. So just tapping into the personal side before we even discuss business, to me, is very important.
So with the comp plan, how important is it in that conversation, and what is your strategy when introducing it?
I love that our compensation plan it's a one page. It's so easy. It's almost fun to bring it out and just, start the conversation of where are you at, right? Like, what season are you in your business, right? I love to do this. I'm like, tell me your last month in business. Let's plug that into our compensation plan and see where you're at. So I definitely lead with that, but I also ask them, what do you see in our compensation plan that could help us help your people? Because a lot of times, we're not really focused in making people $15,000 a month. We really need to focus on how do we help somebody with an extra $250, $350. So bringing the comp plan out, it's so easy to understand. To me, it's really exciting. I love talking about the money and the potential that can be earned here.
What is your favorite part of the comp plan that really stands out? Like if you had to pick one?
I think if I had to pick two things that stand out to me, because I can't pick one. First and foremost, at least for me, FFM was just such a big catalyst. I think that we don't talk about finances enough in our industry. And let's be real, there's been a lot of people that have made a lot of money, myself included, and have had nothing to show for it. So when I came to Q and seeing their comp plan and seeing, right, like FFM and what it could do for me and my family and what it could do for so many others, right? Like, think about it. Like, hey, you don't need to sell a single dollar or, find a single business partner, but you do get a free financial coach. Like, that's unheard of.
Yeah.
Nowhere does that happen. So to me, that was the first one. And then second of all, our BPE rank advancement bonuses, the fact that you can tell somebody, I can teach you how to make $1,250 in your first month of business, that's crazy. Again, that's unheard of. The fact that we pay so much money to the newer people is something that, again, I feel like that's what we can confidently say. Once you see it, you cannot unsee it.
Right. That's a big deal.
That's a big chunk of money.
Yes. So for new people, what do you think is the easiest thing to concentrate on in the comp plan if you're pitching the business to their friends?
I think, once again, it goes back to listening to your friend or your prospect's story, where they're at. Because I love being able to go to you and say, hey, Whitney, I know based on what you've told me that two people in your network that we can talk about this business. Put me in front of them. Let me share my story. Let me share your story. Let me share the story of so many others that, like ourselves, have come here and have found success. Now, again, whatever success looks like, because, me being a Ruby, that's my chosen success and that's my path. But I have elites who are very happy with an elite pay because it's what they need in this season of their life. So I tell them, again, it's two people I could talk to. Let me just hear them out. Let me see how we can help them. And then right away, before you know it, we'll host a little sip and, a sip and sample. And you have your first 2 ambassadors. You just hit the rank of builder. I mean, $50 set pay, $175 rank advancement bonus. Like, it still blows my mind that it's almost like we take it for granted, or a lot of people take it for granted, and they don't understand the impact that amount of money can have on a family the next Friday. So I think just leading from the heart and leading honestly, right? And just having the conversations that I think a lot of people are not willing to have.
So are there any mistakes you think people fall into when pitching the comp plan? You mentioned listening. What would something someone wouldn't want to do?
I think that one of the biggest mistakes that I see, and it happens every day, is overshooting. So why do we need to focus on how to get somebody to silver when we haven't even focused on getting them to builder? Let's get you to builder. If you build builder every single month from scratch, your business will never be stagnant. It's a personal goal of mine every single month. 2 new ambassadors, 150 PV each, builder again. That's 2 new people who are in my business who now I can teach how to hit builder too, how to make an extra income. And so if I feel like it gets almost like overcomplicated, immediately people sit down like, but I can teach you how to make $8,000, $4,000. And I'm like, how about we teach you how to make $225 first?
Yeah. One step at a time.
One step at a time. Because I think it's just inevitable. I think when you do it right and you plug into the systems and you listen to the way that other successful leaders have done it, it's never going to lead you astray. And I think that's how I came in. I know that's how Brittany taught me, and that's what I've implemented with so many teams that we've successfully launched. And I mean, it's still working a year later, so I think it must work.
Yeah. Do you change the way you talk about the comp plan to a potential leader from another company versus a newer person with a smaller network? Is there a difference?
I think there are differences in multiple aspects. Number one, a leader does want to talk about making $15,000, $25,000 possibly. But when I talk to the leader, again, it typically goes back to what do your people need? And how do we get your team, the people that trusted in you, winning? And what does that look like? Where do they stand? Do we have the people wanting the 15,000, the 8,000? Or do we need to stick to really focusing on those, first 3, 4, 5 ranks? And again, I almost feel like when I've done that with a leader, that they brought in other unsuspected leaders who they didn't even know could lead. I feel like the ease of just focusing on those first few ranks, it's almost kind of just like the fire that they need. And now when I talk to somebody who's never done this before, again, I just go back to let's focus on the basics. Let me help you talk to people. Let me help you get conversations started. How can we get your business pumping in a way where it's not icky, it's not weird, it's your friends who are actually excited to support you? And I think the industry has lost a little bit of that excitement over your friend doing something new and you wanting to support them. And I love to bring that back. So I like to bring that excitement and that hype, right? Like I'm like a hype queen sometimes. Like, you need to try brew. And they're like, well, why? And I'm like, just come to my house and bring them. And I promise you, I'm going to make them the best latte that they've ever had. And they're going to want it. They're going to want it. So it definitely is different. But I think at the basis of it, it's really just about listening. It's about listening to people, why they want to be here. What do they need? And bridging the gap. I think that's what we do. We're connectors. And even in the business plan, I am a connector to the amount of money that you need to make and that we need to help your people.
So how does having CV ranks impact the way you talk to others about the comp plan and the business?
I mean, that's my secret weapon. I love the fact that I can tell somebody, you don't have to feel good about recruiting or building a team or being a mentor, because let's be real, that's a lot of responsibility that not everybody's ready for. And I love that I can kind of convince them along the way, but still get them a paycheck. I can get them sales. I can get them to have, support from their closest network while we build, a new network and we expand the network, but I can still get you some money. And I love that because I think, and I've seen it happen, a lot of companies will kind of lie and say, well, here you can't. And then when you look into it, they really can't. And I mean, if you want to hit Black Diamond on CV, you can. We haven't told anybody they can. Is it hard? Absolutely. Can you? Yes, you can. And I have a C rank and I love it. I mean, I'm never going to turn down an opportunity to make extra income. But I think it's a little bit of my secret weapon. And I love talking about it. And when I read somebody after I screen them and I have the conversations, I can have those honest conversations in which, like, listen, if you're not ready to recruit and to build, we can still get you paid. But what happens is inevitably you're going to use your strategic placements to give them volume. So I promise you, in a month, if you do this right, they're looking at you and asking you, hey, how do I build a team? Because I see this volume that's under me and I'm not going to let it go to waste. So I love it. I mean, and by the way, you get paid more money on the CV side too. I mean, we were just talking to Jake about that. So I think it could literally be our secret weapon.
How has the FFM program changed the way you see the comp plan and handle your finances?
Well, I don't think you'll have enough time for my FFM story, our FFM story, because I tell myself sometimes I don't even recognize myself in the best of ways, because finances were a hard topic to talk about at home. It wasn't even just money. It was the lack of money was hard to talk about. It nearly destroyed our marriage, our family. And again, when I saw the compensation plan, even though I saw the ability to earn incredible income, in a way, it was sort of a relief to see FFM, to know that we finally were going to have the support we needed in order to tackle some of the harder, deep-rooted issues that we had with money. And so I love to talk about FFM. I'm very honest and open about our journey with FFM. And when somebody approaches me about Q, or I approach them about Q, it's a very special conversation that I don't take lightly. As a matter of fact, I've become very particular about working with people who are working with FFM. Because, I've had partners, I have business partners who are financial analysts or in finance and different realms of the finance world. And they actively work with their FFM coach. And I think that's amazing. So I don't know that I want to work with somebody who's not as serious as I am about spreading financial literacy in our industry. I think that is extremely important, and we have to hold each other accountable.
And just important in general with finances.
So important in general. And I've shared this before, but coming from a Latino household, it was so taboo. Like, we don't talk about money. You got to make money and you need the money, but we don't talk about the woes. We just don't talk about it. You just make the money. And I felt like such a calling to say, you know what? I'm going to use this influence to spread the word about, the impact of financial literacy. And to me, that is so important. It's part of my launch call. You do not get off our launch call, our one-on-one. It'll be very awkward if you want to get away from it, because it's a one-on-one call in which I stop what we're doing. I give you your ID number. You should know it, but in case you don't, you kind of do, right? I give you your ID number. I tell you the email. I tell you the subject line, and I tell you what to write. And you just send that email. It's that important to me. So I think it should not be taken lightly. And I think if ambassadors are not talking about FFM as in its own merit, I think they're doing themselves and their business a great disservice.
If you could offer one piece of advice or training, what part of the comp plan do you think deserves more attention when being pitched to friends and leaders of other companies?
I love the fact that you only ever need 2 personally enrolled active ambassadors. I absolutely think that is a game crusher. I think that infinite volume and levels are not nearly accurately described as they should. And again, coming from a company in which it was not like that. It was levels, and the compensation plan was so complex to this day. Even though I thought I was an expert in it, I obviously wasn't. I couldn't even tell you what my check was made of. So I think focusing on what makes us different: set pay, infinite volumes down, 2 personally enrolled ambassadors active ever. That's it. You talk about that and you are able to put it in context to what other companies have tried to do or have done. And there's just nothing that compares to it. And that's important because you get the right person in front of you to talk about those key components. And it's game over. And I mean, let's be real. The compensation plan was written, and every time it's enhanced, is to drive the behavior of the field. And I think it shows. I think that you can see it in the leadership. I think you can see it in the up and coming groups. I think you can see it in people who are still, producing. It's just when you know your comp plan, you're unstoppable, really.
Why is the comp plan being one page so important?
I'm going to be honest. There is nothing worse in anything. I feel you give me like 17 pages of anything and immediately I'm like, no, like you do not have me for that long. And I think the fact that you can pull out one pager, it's so straightforward. It's so direct. It's, the boxes are numbered. The color is appealing. You plop it in front of somebody and you're just so easily able to explain it. That is a killer, right? And especially for the person who's never done this before, who all of a sudden has, think about just a bunch of numbers thrown at them, right? And I just love it. It's one page. It's simple. It's easy to understand. It's amazing. You just pull it out. I always have extra copies of the comp plan. I always travel with samples and like extra copies and like a little pamphlet. And I'm like, we don't need to talk much about it. Do that 15 minutes for me. And I think that that's important. So please let's not make it more than one page. Very important.
I think anything with finances, it's nice to simplify it as much as possible. So
absolutely. It could be a very overwhelming experience. And I remember when I was looking into Q, and it wasn't the only company that I was looking into, the way that the comp plan sheet was just structured, and that I didn't have to look for a video explaining it first, that I could look at it, understand it, and then a video was almost secondary to kind of just, answer some hesitations or concerns, not even concerns, but questions that I may have. That says a lot, and I've presented it to people who've never done this before, and, I kind of let it marinate, and then they of course, they're going to have their questions, but it's not overwhelming, and that's important. We can't complicate things. People in this day and age need, simple systems, simple compensation plans, so that they're just able to come in here and plug, play, win, earn. And that is where you've just found the perfect formula.
All right. Well, I think that's a great place to stop. Thank you so much for talking with us about the comp plan.
Thank you guys. Thank you for having me. I appreciate it.